Hello, welcome to the Mandela Effect Equals Knowledge. My name is Dale DuFay. I'm going to talk about the human anatomy in this video and start with these questions. Does anybody remember the human males missing a rib in the reality where you originated from? Personally, I do. I remember that was one of the most, probably the most uh, fact about the human body that helped me believe that the Bible was true, because all males were missing a rib, just like Adam's rib, just like the creation story. So that, you know, to me was something that was very predominant in my memory. It's not that we're having false memories or anything like that, or we're just misinformed or something, but I totally remember that because it was something that was brought to my attention even when I was a kid. So I was always fascinated by that because, again, it kind of verified the, creation story in the Bible. So, and also, does anybody remember the lower four ribs being full floaters? In other words, they weren't connected by this cartilage bone to the sternum. Look here, I mean, the whole rib cage, every rib except for these two, the lower one here and this one, the two lower ones are floating. But I remember these all were floaters as well. And of course, the missing rib in the human male. Uh, that I remember very well. In fact, in some realities, I noticed that this floater isn't in the skeleton at all either. Just short stubs, like this one. This one's actually kind of long. We'll go over some other, you know, aspects of the skeleton. I have a lot of pictures of the skeleton. Now, again, we have to remember that this isn't a false memory. Now, some of you might not recall that, even though you came from the outer reaches of the Sagittarius arm, and you just may not recall that. And even though you were in another reality, where the Earths are super in size, 4 times larger than these Earths, you may not recall the males missing a rib. And that's simply because in some of those realities out there on the outer reaches, on the Sagittarius arm, on those super Earths, not all the realities had the missing rib scenario. I mean, I call it Adam's rib. Some of those realities, there was not missing ribs, so you're not going to recall that. Even though we're at all the realities, you're only going to recall the reality where you originated, your portion of your soul. Now, it's important to realize that 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 our souls are splintered and fractured, and each portion is in a replica version of yourself in a completely different reality. Now, does anybody, remember the eye sockets of the human skull having a bone in the back of the eye socket? Now, I don't either. Does anyone remember the heart being completely off center on the left side and much smaller? I mean, I know I do, because I had cardiac issues. Now, here's a back view of the skeleton. You can see these floaters here. So there are floaters. Again, in some realities, if you pay attention, because we are shifting frequently, some of the skeletons don't have these floaters even. Maybe some short ones like this one. In fact, what are they? They're just still considered at a rib, but you could tell that, And again, we have to remember that some religions have already, and groups have already aware that we have a, splintered and fractured soul, and Mandela effect's vindicating them. Also, does anyone remember having ridges on the ribs from the tip to cuticle? This is not my hand, by the way. Here's another diagram of the heart. Look at how huge that is. Now, I don't recall that at all. In fact, it's kind of neat realizing you had replica versions of yourself that have existed in these other realities with a more robust body. But we have to realize too, we're connected on this quantum level, every replica version of ourselves. And science is just realizing that. Here it says the particles will remain connected even if they were on opposite sides of the universe. And we know that's the case with the Milky Way galaxy. Some of us originated from realities that are 70,000 light years from here. Now, here again is a real good, picture of the skeleton. See how most of the ribs are connected to a sternum. The sternum here, that's remarkable. And the collarbone and everything is totally different. I remember the collarbone, there wasn't anybody, everyone knew somebody that had a broken collarbone or a broken rib because of these floaters that were down there. But this skeleton is totally different. It would kind of indicate that the bodies are, basically built to suit the particular earth they were created on. Because we have to realize that literally everything is from the earth, even inanimate objects. Anything that humans produce and create is from the earth, including like automobiles, are all going to be the same. The colors might be different. I know that's true in my case. But here you can see, clearly the rib cage is far more robust in these realities. It's amazing. They're all connected to the sternum. So if like I say, if you recall breaking a rib, it may not be broken in this reality because again, the bodies are far more robust. I always wondered why, I always realized that the human beings were very frail. In the reality I recall, where this portion of my soul originated, are very frail, and I always wondered how we were able to keep existing and being able to do and function and do the things we did, as far as with the human body's concerned. And now it makes more sense realizing we had these replica versions of ourselves in these more robust bodies. In these other realities that we were constantly connected to, in these realities that have always existed, where we have always existed. But we're always constantly connected to these other replica versions of ourselves. It just says these replica versions of ourselves that have been sharing our soul since the day we were born. We're constantly connected to the frailer versions of ourselves we recall. It makes so much more sense now. But here you can, just clearly see the skeleton is different in so many ways. I still can't get over how robust the rib cage is and how large the heart is and how well protected it is compared to the frailer versions of ourselves. There may even be some differences in the animal skeletons. Again, the bodies of all creatures, including humans and pets and everything, are all built to suit the particular earth they were created on. I always get a kick out of the see no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil. But I wanted to get together, a montage of as many skeleton pictures as I could in this reality and compare the differences. Now, again, I never was much into biology. Look at that. I always remember the skull, the eye socket being totally hollow. And here there's quite a robust bone that goes in the behind the eye socket. It's quite remarkable. Again, that explains why we were being frail human beings on the outer reaches out there in those realities are far more robust here, and that would explain why we were able to do the things we could do, even though we broke collarbones and ribs and things like that. Because of the frailer skeleton, we were still able to function. Because again, like I was getting at, I had cardiac issues, in the reality, I recall where this portion of my soul originated. So I know about the heart and where it was and the location and the size and things like that because I had a angiogram. That's where they bring the, right through your groin up into the heart and check it out because I had issues. And I always wondered why I was able to still function and do as well and get through all that. And simply because all along was connected to replica versions of myself that had a far more robust heart. Whereas here, I probably didn't have the cardiac issues I had there. I could look in my records and find out whether I had that angiogram in this reality or not. That'd be interesting. I would suspect I did because I imagine every replica version of myself was, having heart issues at that time. That was many years ago. But look at these ridges from tip to cuticle. This isn't my hand simply because the fingernails are there. I am a nail biter, so I know what my nails looked like, and I always was, fascinated how smooth and delicate they are in those realities. The reality I recall where this portion of my soul originated. So I was well versed on what the fingernails look like, and to find them ridged from tip to cuticle here and more strong. I mean, they're much stronger, the nails are, but that didn't stop me from biting them in these realities either. So I've always been a nail biter. I was always very cognizant of what the fingernails were like, and it was very alarming to see the ridges. And of course, we know that these things did not change. It's impossible. It's impossible for your body to morph into something else overnight. It's impossible for all of a sudden the males to have the even amount of ribs and things like that, and for the ribs to be connected to the sternum all of a sudden, and for a bone to be behind the eye socket all of a sudden. So what's that telling us? It's telling us that this is a completely different reality that we have always existed in. Think about that. There's nothing else. That's the only explanation there is. There's no way the Earth's, the solar system could change location in the Milky Way galaxy and the galactic arm some 70,000 light years, let alone our body to morph into something completely different. I mean, they're virtually identical, especially externally. But internally, they're vastly different, more robust. So, it's impossible. So the only other explanation that is left, as improbable as it is our soul portion, the one we were born with, is being allowed to coalesce into other replica versions of ourselves in other realities throughout the Milky Way galaxy, or at least in the Sagittarius arm, which is connected to the Orion arm, inner Orion arm and Orion spur are all one of the same. But it's improbable as that is. We are being allowed to witness the fact that we did all along have other replica versions of ourselves in this parallel reality, which is incredible. And the proof is right here. Again, all we have is our memory. We can't prove this, but our memory's not going, bad like others want us to think. That's impossible. Like I said, I totally remember human males missing a rib. I always called it Adam's rib. It helped me to believe in the Bible and the creation story, because I was like, wow, all human males are missing a rib. That's significant. But of course, here they're not. In fact, all these realities, which are many in this sector of the galaxy, just like there's many on the outer reaches of the Sagittarius arm. That's why some of us have different recollections than others. Because even though we're at all the realities out there, we're only going to remember the reality that our portion of our soul originated from. So some of us originated from realities out there where the humans, males, did not have a missing rib, and so on and so forth. So we're going to have different recollections, but our memories are reliable. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. There's no way somebody's going to tell me that there's not a reality out there where the human males are missing a rib. There's no way. That's, because I was absolutely positive about that, just like I was absolutely positive about the solar system's location in the Milky Way galaxy, just like we're all positive about the size of the Earth we originated from. So we know these things are impossible to change overnight. It's impossible. Like this bone being all of a sudden, and you can look at skulls from antiquity, skulls from civilizations thousands of years ago, and they all have the bone behind the eye socket, and they all have the same rib cage, same skeleton overall. So there's no way that our memories are going bad. There's no way that this can change overnight. It's impossible. So again, what other solution or answer is there? As improbable as it is, the only thing left is we're obviously coalescing and shifting like musical chairs. Every portion of our soul is experiencing the same thing. Every portion. Just like when we shift and when we experience a shift quantum shift into another reality that has always existed, that we have always existed in. Every portion of your soul, which is splintered and fractured, and each portion being fiercely independent, is experiencing the same thing. And even though each portion of our soul has its own memories, they're still constantly connected on a subconscious level. So that's important to realize that. Just like a lot of Eastern religions and other groups have always been saying that our soul has been splintered and fractured all along, but they don't know, of course, that the other portions of the soul are in replica versions of ourselves experiencing a parallel existence, all in this one dimension where distance separates our realities, not dimensions. We know this because the other dimensions are parallel too, because when we're in these other realities that we have always existed in, the Mandela effect's helping us realize this by shifting, we see that the other dimensions are there as well. And by that I mean the spirit realm and UFOs and all paranormal activity is there as well in every reality. So that tells us that the paranormal things and dimensional things and are parallel as well. In fact, indeed, heaven, if you will, is parallel as well. Everything is parallel. So that helps us to understand that it's all in one dimension. Not only that, but the fact that we're in a different sector of the galaxy. Just because it's 70,000 light years away doesn't matter. Science is just now understanding it could be on the opposite side of the entire universe and it wouldn't matter. Again, quantum entanglement knows no boundaries. And we don't have to really travel there physically to any reality because we're already there. We're just traveling there on a, quantum level with our soul, our fractured and splintered soul. So every portion of your soul with its own fierce independence and memory is experiencing the same thing you are with the Mandela effect. Perhaps the portion of your soul that was in this replica version of yourself is in the replica version of yourself where this portion of your soul originated from, experiencing the same thing but in different terms. I mean, it's just remarkable. The Mandela effect is showing us that basically our life is like a roll of film, if you will, with each frame in that film being a completely different reality. So as it goes through the projector, it choreographs our entire life, and the projector being the present. And all the film ahead of the projector and behind the projector, it represents the future and the past. So it's very interesting what the Mandela effect is revealing. And we can rely on our memories. I don't remember the rib cage being so robust. It's incredible. Or the skeleton, period. I mean, it seems like everything's more practical in these Orion dwarf Earth realities. By that I mean more, robust skeleton. Again, there may be a reason for that, or it could be the Earth itself, because as mentioned earlier, everything comes from the Earth. Animate objects, inanimate objects, everything is from the Earth. So it might have something to do with that. And there's obviously who knows how many Earths in the Milky Way galaxy, even though they're tied together on a quantum level as well, just like everything. They're bound to be variations and differences, which we see, but they're bound to be differences beyond that. As far as, yes, the Mother Earth is alive. It does have a soul, because experiencing the Mandela effect and seeing parallel Earths, it would be a prerequisite for that Earth to have a soul. So everything has a soul, including, the blade of grass. And we know that because we see the same blade of grass and the same lawn in every single reality, albeit there may be variations and differences, say where a tree may be or the size of the tree and things like that. But they are still there in every reality, regardless of the differences we see in geology of the Earth and the differences we see in the human skeleton. That's still us. And that's remarkable. So obviously perhaps this human, the bodies are built to suit the particular Earth they were created on for physical reasons, and also for, reasons the earth having its own character and personality perhaps. But I just wanted to go over the human skeleton again and tell everybody that yes, I'm from one of the realities that have where the males are missing a rib. I call them the Adam's rib reality. There's not, again, not everybody's going to recall that because not every reality out there 70,000 light years from here on the outer reaches, the Sagittarius arm of the Milky Way galaxy, has realities where the males are missing a rib. Because not everyone recalls it, just like a lot of people don't recall Nelson Mandela perishing in prison. I don't, but I know I'm in realities where he did. We're all in every reality, but we're not going to, you know, come from the same reality as far as your portion of your soul, even though you have other portions in all the other realities. It's this particular reality that we're sharing at this moment. We're not going to have the same recollection because we originated from different realities, even though we're at all of them. I know that's just really difficult to grasp. But again, this is not my hand because these nails would be chewed down. But this was a good picture I found because it clearly shows the ridges from tip to cuticle. And I still can't get over the size of the heart. It's just huge here. And the lungs and everything, kidneys, and it seems like all the organs are more robust, just like the skeleton. And it's that quantum entanglement that helped these physical beings of our bodies and whatnot to be more finesse, and because there's bodies and other realities that we've been sharing since we were born that are have more finesse, and there's some that are more robust, and together, with all these replica versions of ourselves have been sharing our soul since the day we were born, together make us who we are. Think about that. It's really, really, really fascinating. So no, it's not your memory that's going crazy. Again, I totally remember it. There's nobody going to tell me otherwise. And I remember more floaters, at least the lower 4 ribs, and then the third 3 on the male, 3 on one side, 4 on the other. I honestly can't remember which side the rib was missing on the human males. I honestly can't say for sure. But it was one of the big floaters on the bottom. And literally, there wasn't anyone that didn't know somebody that had a cracked rib. Because once it cracked, especially the floating ones, once those cracked, there was no support from then on. They couldn't heal it in any way or repair it. But here, if it cracked and everything, it would be easily healed because it's connected in the front and the back. It's really incredible, except for these 2 floaters. And again, I remember realities because I look at the skeleton often where there were no floaters at all in some. And then in other realities, there were just short little ribs coming out of the spine that didn't even wrap around hardly, which were called floaters. Like this, it's kind of like this. But see here, they're only showing the one and the rest are all connected. So it's really interesting how you got to be real careful because one time I said that the skeleton has no floaters, but that somebody looked it up and saw that we did. But I was talking about floaters totally different, full ribs that weren't connected to the sternum. And then, of course, the missing rib in the human male. So, that again, it's like there's no there's no need to travel. We're everywhere all the time. It's our soul portions that are traveling. Our soul it's literally in a blink of an eye, and that happens when we're shifting. Now, I personally believe that that's during REM sleep. I know it is in my case because I don't realize I have shifted till I wake up the next morning and notice some variations and differences in things around me, not just in the earth. I like to look at Google Earth and see differences there, which are many, especially when you shift, you realize you're in a completely different reality where everything's virtually identical for the most part, except for certain things are not. That's where it can be so confusing. And that's why this Mandela effect can be such a conundrum where you see no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil. It's a conundrum, and I'm certain it's meant to be. All we have is basically our memory is proof, and that's why that makes this a faith-based phenomenon. It has to do with faith and what it's showing us. And I think it's showing us miraculous things about the human being and life and creation and life in general. It's nothing sinister whatsoever. This was not something perpetrated by human beings. This was something that was meant to happen. And we shouldn't be frightened about it. We shouldn't be homesick because this is our home. It always has been our home. We were totally unaware of it until now, thanks to the Mandela effect. But now we realize that we are basically human beings of the Milky Way galaxy, not just planet Earth. And that, brings up a whole bunch of interesting aspects as far as, again, that other dimension, the paranormal things, the so-called, beings from another planet. I always like to say that, they always point up the stars and say that's where they came from, but they fail to say that we are there too. Like when we look up at the Orion belt, there's no doubt every star you see in that belt has an Earth orbiting it, and they're looking up, and we there are looking up at this star, at this Earth, in this reality. They're looking at this star, and no doubt it's perhaps a star in Orion's belt in their reality. So indeed, that the constellations and everything are parallel as well. They're going to be in every reality, albeit with variations and differences. And this is something we've come to expect. But they're there, and it doesn't change anything. Again, nothing's changing. It's just different. And ultimately, the outcome will always remain the same, just like with Nelson Mandela. There are realities where he perished in prison, and there are realities where he was liberated from prison and ascended to presidency of South Africa. It did not matter. The geopolitical outcome of South Africa remained the same whether Nelson Mandela was president or a martyr. It did not matter. And the fact that, what happened to the soul portions of Nelson Mandela in those realities where he perished? Well, they were, in that other dimension, in that spiritual realm, in limbo, and, because nothing else could have happened to him because other portions of his soul was in realities where he was still living. So what does that prove? It proves that, yes, heaven is parallel too. So that soul portion of Nelson Mandela in the realities where he perished in prison remained in limbo in that spirit realm where time does not exist until his other portions were released from his body in the realities where he died of natural causes. And then it's at that point where no doubt the souls are recycled. I'm a firm believer in that. That's something else. The Mandela effect's just revealing so many incredible things. The fact that our soul is eternal, the fact that it'll never perish, the fact that it was created a long time ago. Everybody's soul has. We all have an old soul. And it's incredible that the Mandela effect's really revealing all these things. So we can rely on our memory, and we can, talk about these things. Obviously, we can't prove it. There's absolutely no way of proving it because most of the people around us are not experiencing the Mandela effect. They still have the original portion. There's, the soul portion they were born with. So to them, everything's exactly the same. Nothing's different. Nothing's changed. So that's why the confusion can come in. It's a faith. It's all about faith. It's a faith-based because of the conundrum it presents, the fact that there is no evidence. The only way there's going to be proof is when they send those probes out and find that those exoplanets they've been finding on a daily basis are, in fact, indeed Earths with realities with us on it, with life on it as we know it. And, of course, they may still get confused over that because they're going to send out these probes, and of course the other realities are going to send out the probes, And some are going to wind up here, and they're going to think that the probe they sent out is returning. And they might notice a slight variation difference in the construction of the probe. So who know? It's an interesting conundrum, is it not? So with that, I thank you for watching, and we will talk at you later. Love you.